Here we go. It's Monday. Happy start to the week, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo Morning Show. Dave Loughran, Ben Rasa, Josh Engleman. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about today, including The Last Dance, Michael Jordan documentary. First couple of episodes were absolutely spectacular. Was initially intended to be released in June. They pushed it up to April for obvious reasons. And so far, it has not disappointed. Going to talk NFL win totals. They've been released. So have a lot of really good player prop futures. We got into them a little bit last week, but we're diving far deeper into them today. There's a lot to get to on that front. And in my opinion, a serious edge to be had on a number of these these props. The Wonderlic scores were released. They were leaked. Get into a little bit more draft content. Josh, how we doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Recharged the old batteries. Got a lot done at the house this weekend. Just plowed through the first two episodes of the Jordan doc, which is fantastic. I'm feeling good. Ready to kick this week off.
We're gonna get into that in a moment, Ben. But I can't help. I have to mention this. I have to mention this. I've been sitting home. It's been like 40 days for us almost now. Yep. Me personally, I started this personal quarantine, what do they call it? What's the one where you do it yourself? You know what I mean? Like before there's an order.
Like a regiment?
Like the quarantine before self-quarantine.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking personal, but yeah, self-quarantine.
You even said the word self.
I know. It's a struggle these mornings. March 14th was the beginning for me. So It's been a while now. So I thought to myself, I should get in shape. I walk the dog a mile a day, but that doesn't really count. All in all, I'm not doing all that great. So I see this commercial for a product called Tonal. First of all, horrible name, right? Product looks great, but all I think of is toenail and things that just don't. I'm not a fan. So Tonal, Tonal.
I immediately thought of that Jay-Z music streaming service, Tidal.
Okay, yeah, sure. I didn't think of a workout piece of equipment. Anyway, it goes on your wall, and it's like, a screen with your coaches or your instructors, your drill sergeants. And I thought this could be interesting. I'll put it in the basement. It comes with like actual weights, but kind of like a Bowflex type weight system. And I say, hey, let me look this up. I might actually do this to get into it. So I go and I say, oh my God, it's $3,000, Ben. But that's not the end of it. It's $3,000 plus mandatory equipment that's $500 plus a mandatory 12-month subscription. You would think that you'd already have $50 a month. So all in all, you're paying right under $3,800 for a workout machine that goes on your wall.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show. I'm not well versed for obvious reasons in how much those things cost. That seemed a little lofty. I just bought a Peloton for our house, which was lofty in its own right, but
like a third of the price.
Yeah, a third. What it's very interesting to see, and it's smart by them going to, that's how gyms get people. The subscription base, you don't use it. Now this is a gym in your house, but they get you on the subscription. That's obviously where they're going to make their money over and over, because so many people will sign up and then 6 months into this, they don't use it, but you're still paying those last 6 months $50 a pop.
Yep, and they force you into 12 months. Josh,
smart.
Look, I know where you are on this, and I know you don't necessarily believe that it's overpriced. And listen, I'm well versed enough in workout equipment to know that it's expensive. Even if you wanted to buy like Olympic plates for a bench press, they're like $1 a pound.
Yeah.
Right. They're expensive, sometimes more than that. Like a 50-pound weight is $50+ if you want a good one. I get all that. But dude, $3,800 is a lot of money. I was genuinely excited about this, but the only thing that was running through my head is my wife would actually have a right to want to kill me if I get this and then do what I always do and work out 5 times. Be like, I'll get to that next year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're not going to use it, then you look like an idiot. But that's with anything that's expensive. I have no idea if it's any good. That's really the piece of it here. If we find out that this is the greatest at-home working device or at-home workout device, I think that's a bargain.
Money bags over there.
It's really new. I mean, it's very new.
Right.
And I actually had pulled up some reviews on it. And the thing is, everybody that had it loved it. But I'm not surprised by that, Ben, because it's $4,000. I get that people enjoy this and that they don't want to go to the gym for weightlifting. But $4,000, and I'm just going to keep upping the price to make it sound even more egregious than
$5,000 for a home workout gym is a lot of money. I mean, the thing I'll say, and listen, everyone's got their preferences. People are more well versed than me. The great thing about working out is you can be innovative. You can make a ridiculously good and tough workout without any stuff. You go Rocky style, and there's ways to do it. So that's part of the thing in terms of the opportunity cost of paying for something that much. You have to do it because like you said, if you sink that kind of money, you better be on it. And B, there's just other ways to kind of get in shape without something like that. So for $6,000, I would rather put my money elsewhere.
It is the way of the future, if I had to guess, though, in terms of the way workouts are going to trend, right? Because it takes up no space. And it looks great. It's futuristic. It's just a shitload of money. So
it really is.
I don't know. Josh, maybe get one and report back to us since you think it's pretty cheap.
I'll do that since it's $8,000. I need to find 4,020s on the ground. No, that's not right. I need
4,000 likes.
I need to find $420 bills on the ground.
Would you pick them up?
Only if it meant that I had to aggregate them to buy the tonal.
Fair. The tonal.
So taking a little bit of a look at the NFL draft, the Wonderlic scores, by the way, hit that thumbs up button if you're here. It helps us out greatly to work around that YouTube algorithm that's trying to keep the little guys down. Subscribe and hit the notification bell as well while you're at it. The NFL Wonderlic scores are in large part nonsense. At least that's the way I see it. And as a matter of fact, I pulled up the Wonderlic scores history, Josh, of the highest and lowest, right? The highest and lowest Wonderlic scores for professional athletes.
Yeah.
And I'll get to this because Tua Tagovailoa is scored low. I can't pronounce his last name. Scored lowest of any quarterback in this draft, right? Not great. 13. Others say it was 19 and that was wrong, but he did not score particularly well. Joe Burrow had the highest Wonderlic score, of the ones that I think between him and Tua, Burrow was 34. Justin Herbert was actually 39.
That's right.
And
wait,
what's that?
That's right. Continue.
Yeah. And don't worry, I got you. And Tua was a 13, 19 to some potentially. The average
what did
is
you
around
say Justin Herbert was?
39, which is really good.
I've got 25 in front of me.
Could be fake news. Maybe I was scoring.
And that's from the link that you gave me.
So, okay, let me see here. Because there have been a ton of conflicting ones. So what happened was there were Wonderlic scores that were leaked. And then you had a reporter, it might have even been Albert Breer, say, this is not right. Here are the actual ones. So what I do know is Tua scored the lowest and Joe Burrow scored one of the highest. But look at some other ones. Like Darren Davis was an undrafted player in the NFL. He scored a 4. Morris Claiborne, a 4. Frank Gore, a 6. Yeah. Vince Young, a 6. But then you look at some really good players. I hate to say it, but Donovan McNabb was one of the lowest you've seen for a quarterback. And he went on to have the best year of best career of any quarterback in his particular draft. Ray Lewis was a 13. So there are some ugly scores for some really good players. How much do you think the Wonderlic score even matters?
0.
Yeah, 0.
I think it's basically uncorrelated. It's easy to look back and you look at Vince Young. It's like, oh, well, they should have seen this coming, like horrible Wonderlic test. Yeah. But if he was great, as some, people were bringing up Dan Marino, he did not have a good Wonderlic. No one has anything to say about that. There's going to be outliers, of course, on both sides. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick very famously dominated the Wonderlic test. He went to Harvard. He's obviously a very, very sharp guy. Is that good to see? Of course, it's great to know that, but it's not a prerequisite for excelling. I think at quarterback, it's more important. But I also think it gets more overblown. So maybe the difference between that and other skill positions actually muddies the water even more.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, Jamarcus Russell scored a 24, which is above average, and no one talks about that.
No, not at all. I think it's really funny. Shout out to Nick Saban here. Jalen Hurts and Tua, 18 and 13 respectively. That is 31 combined, also less than Joe Burrow.
But when they're on the field, they don't need to know. I mean, if you've ever seen a Wonderlic test, you know that there are some critical skills that are probably good to breaking things down. But at the same time, a lot of it's not applicable.
It's not. And I don't really think at this point the teams even take it much into consideration anymore. I could be wrong, but I think maybe it's a complimentary piece, but certainly not something that they're using to say, all right, this is the guy we're taking because he scored higher on the Wonderlic test. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there were old coaches and GMs that were actually quoted saying, if they score too high on the Wonderlic test, we don't want them either, because one, it can affect how smart they think they are in the locker room. And, you know, that they're trying to outsmart everyone, including the coaches. And it's just causing turmoil in the locker room. And also sometimes the more cerebral, the more intelligent you are, the easier it is to make mistakes and not be able to make quick decisions. So matter of fact, Ben, they've actually been quoted, many of them, saying that like closer to average is preferred for Wonderlic scores and not like Ryan Fitzpatrick's 48.
I mean, listen, you see all sorts. I remember a lot of people saying, you know, I'll bring up Josh Rosen in particular, that he's like very well-rounded. He has interests outside of football, and that's actually a negative. Right. Because in a way, they just want people who are like, I have nothing else. This is my whole life. Whereas some of the guys that score higher on the test, you know, maybe they have other interests, and that's why they're excelling at those things. I guess you could look at it as a detriment. I think that's a lot of noise both ways. There's a million other things that you can evaluate. And of course, I don't think anyone's disputing that there's a mental side to the game. I just don't know if it's translated over the Wonderlic test.
And you have to be a little bit, I shouldn't say, so different positions require different forms of intelligence in terms of, like a running back, you need to have phenomenal instincts. Like you need to have instincts to where you see a hole, you hit it. You need to know exactly who to follow on the blocks. It's different than at quarterback moving through your reads, Josh, you know, or at cornerback, having the instincts to make that play, to jump on a ball, to try and cut off a route. Like they're all entirely different forms, not entirely different forms, but it definitely takes different instincts and different, not even levels of intelligence, but forms of intelligence for these different positions. And that's why the Wonderlic test just seems like complete nonsense, particularly for positions like running back and others.
It's insane to me that there could be anybody that uses this information for anything. If you get their Wonderlic test results back and you make sweeping judgments about any single player, you probably shouldn't even have your job.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You're right. Showing that you probably scored low on the Wonderlic test if you're reading into this at all. It'd be like looking at just a 40-yard dash and being Al Davis.
So check this out. The draft coming up is going to be held as a full-out virtual draft. And right now, the odds for there to be technical difficulty with at least one team is minus 300.
Oh, somebody's going to drop a stream, man. I could relate.
Someone has to, right? Minus 300, yes. That something goes wrong here. Josh, I mean, just imagining the type of difficulties we've had. Now you need 32 teams to execute flawlessly. They're all going to have, and we're going to go over this. You guys will be, if you haven't looked into this, it's really fascinating the way they're actually doing this draft. They're going to all be allowed to have one IT guy in the decision maker's house. So of the 32 decision makers in the league, they'll have one IT guy like in a different room from them. The Saints were going to do it in a brewery with their 10-man team, but they're saying there's a competitive edge to that. So that was axed.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Start over. There's a competitive edge to the Saints doing it at a brewery.
Well, yes, to having 10 of their people all in one room, to all be together for this, because other teams aren't able to all be together.
Are they allowed to communicate during it? Like, do you have GChat or work
well,
Slack?
they're gonna be in a Microsoft Teams Microsoft Teams application.
I don't care if there are a million people involved in this. There is zero competitive advantage to this. Zilch, nada. It's the last day. Like, if you haven't done all of this work at this point, what are you, flying blind to draft? Hoping that Joe Schmo in the back shouts out something like, "Oh, you should take Joe Burrow first."
Well, it depends, because if trades happen, if people trade up or teams trade down, or if somebody snipes somebody that you didn't think was going to happen and that was your guy, and they take him 6 picks earlier and you didn't have a solid or at least a defined contingency plan,
you should be fired at that point.
I think having 10 people together in a room is significant enough. I mean, I would allow it to happen, but I think it's significant to think that they would all be together. But here's the thing. They're saying, Ben, that this draft is potentially going to be the most unpredictable that we've ever seen, in terms of there is no groupthink right now, because everyone's like, you know what I mean? You're not watching these players in person. And it's going to separate like the legitimately good talent scouts from the shitty ones.
On a lot of, I mean, there's just more unknowns. I think from team to player, and I even think from team to, I guess I'll say Twitter. Like, I don't think that the beat reporters have as good a pulse on what's going on. So I'm interested to see how big of shakeups there are. I'm interested to see, will teams be more conservative? Will they trade back more? Will teams be looking to maybe flatten that variance? Or are people going to really jump and say, you know what, this was my guy. I'm doing the same routine. It's just atypical. I'm taking, this guy at 6 that everyone else has going, 15th. So I'm excited to see it. I think it makes it more fun for the viewers this way. Probably. Let me ask you guys this. Do you think if you're a younger, savvier GM, this helps you as opposed to like guys who are maybe very old school?
No doubt. You could probably make a mint in trading your draft picks for additional assets, more so than normal.
People are stuck in their ways. I mean, you still write the name on a card, right? And bring it up to somebody as far as submitting your draft pick goes. And I actually think there will be some innovative factors going into this draft that they probably take with them into the upcoming drafts years down the road. Like in terms of maybe not filling out a card and walking it to somebody. Yeah. I don't think it's a crazy idea to assume that some of these things they do will be integrated into the system going forward. But dude, John Harbaugh is worried about it being hacked, which it's pretty unlikely. I don't. What's up?
I don't think that's. I'm not going to say it's likely to happen, but I get where that's coming from.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's not crazy, but I'd say it's pretty unlikely. But here's the crazy thing about all of this. I don't know if people know this. I'm sure they do, but a lot of people likely don't remember it, especially if you're somewhat younger. In 2002,
Vikings?
There was the Vikings actually missed their pick at number 7 overall. And if you don't get your pick in time, in the allotted 10 minutes, the next team gets that pick, right? They get to snipe your pick. And the Jaguars came in and did that. And I believe the Panthers came in and did it again. So they didn't get the pick until 9, right? And then it happened again in 2003. So teams legitimately, what's that?
Egregious. This is the 3rd time today that I'm going to fire an entire organization, but you should immediately lose your job for that.
You should. And it was more so trying to execute a trade that didn't go through, but it's out of control. And there's no reason that should happen. However, in this draft format, if you miss your time or if you have any technical difficulties, you are allowed to stop the clock in order to get your pick in. So I do wonder, will any teams say, hey, we had a technical difficulty, we need to stop the clock, even if really they just think they need a little bit more time.
There's something to that. Listen, this is just what I think we're all saying in one way or another. There are unknowns that we've never had to factor in before. And can teams use that to kind of angle shoot a little bit? I guess. I think the well-prepared teams won't have to do that. I think this is going to separate some of maybe the guys that are doing it in a non-optimized way versus teams that maybe welcome something like this because they're going to have opportunities to really separate, and maybe we'll see it translate on the field in a lot of years.
Josh, do you think there's going to be any unscrupulous behavior happening in this draft?
What, like somebody getting hacked?
No, like somebody using the time rules against the NFL or in their favor.
They shouldn't have to. So my answer is no, but I can't imagine why you would want to do that.
Yeah, I guess not.
The only interesting piece about like missing your pick is that you don't have to pay them the 7 slot. If you want to save like, $400,000, you don't think that guy's going to go. You just wait it out a little bit.
Yeah, I guess if you really don't have anybody you want, but in that case, you'd be much smarter to find a trade partner than to just let your time run out.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's not great.
I assume it goes off without a hitch. Like I think that people are obviously going to there's going to be a connection issue or two that pops up, but like I assume this is just a smooth process. It's 2020.
Oh wow, like without a hitch entirely. So
yeah,
you would take the plus 200.
What was?
Or I think it was
what's the verbiage again?
Yeah, what do they define as like a hitch?
Like a technical problem.
I expect that to happen.
Technical issue. It was minus 300. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I expect that to happen.
Okay. I would expect it to happen.
After running streams for 3 years at this point, not only do I expect it to happen, I think that it is largely inevitable and also not a big deal.
Okay.
What do you think? Sorry, I was just going to say, and I know this is hard to predict. Do you think there is a ceiling in terms of like there's a massive problem and like they have to stop the draft? Or do you think that's very unlikely?
I think it's very unlikely because they are doing a test mock draft today.
So like if they're trying to get a pick in and they can't get the pick in, what can they not just call the league and be like, yo, we've got Joe Burrow?
They can so they have, it's very interesting the way that this is set up. So you have essentially, let me pull this up. So there's an ESPN article written by Ken Seifert. And in this article, he says, number one, they're worried about it being hacked. That was the big thing. And then gets into how it's going to work. So the coach, or I'm sorry, the team submits their pick, but then if they don't or can't get that pick in for some reason on the secure connection with key advisors, they'll be able to have somebody else do it. So a designated person will be able to submit that pick if they aren't able to do it themselves. So there are some contingency plans here. But again, this is like totally new, right? It's so here it is. When they've decided on a player, they can pass it along directly to the league officials via an internet connection. As a backup, a club representative can call the selection into the league's player personnel department or via a league-wide conference call that will be kept open throughout the draft. To guard against technology breakdowns at the decision maker's house, 3 separate individuals from each team will have authority to submit the picks.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Then I expect no issues whatsoever.
Right. I don't expect issues in that regard, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see issues in terms of somehow there's a connection that goes down or something like that, and then you have to work it out that way. But yeah, teams don't get any extra time. It's 10 minutes for round 1, 7 minutes for round 2, 3 and 6 minutes for rounds. 6 minutes for round 3 through 7 through 6, and 4 minutes for round 7. So it's going to be interesting. I'm actually very much looking forward to this draft.
Oh yeah. I mean, the unknown makes me more likely to watch this draft than if nothing had happened. There's no doubt about that.
Right. And it's going to be way different, but it's going to be unique in the sense that everything is just going to be it's unprecedented stuff. No hugging Roger Goodell, no booing Roger Goodell, but they set up like a fan line where you can record yourself and submit it. I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeesh.
You know, it's not the same as raining boos down upon him as we've seen before, but it's all going to be broadcast. ESPN, ABC, NFL Network. Like there's my guess is they're going to go above and beyond to make sure that this is a lot better than the NBA horse competition.
Well,
and
there's
that shouldn't be difficult.
It should. The one thing I love though is they've sent out broadcasting equipment to 58 prospective, like 1 through 2nd round draft picks, Ben. So my guess, and I had a conversation with Ani Sridhar, my producer on Sirius. You know him, Ben.
Yep.
And he was like, I forget what the prop bet was, but he's like, yeah, I don't think they're going to have, be able to interview most of the guys in the first round. I think they will be able to interview almost all of the players in the first round because they're trying to keep this as much of a normal broadcast as possible. And that means we want to hear what these guys have to say. We want to see them crying, hugging their fiance and their mom and their parent.
They can't hug all those people, man. Social distancing.
Oh, get out of here.
You got to wave.
You can hug them. You can hug them.
Thumbs ups.
You can hug them. But that actually is a good point. There was a bet that said, how many people, what's the max number of people that will be in a room together? This was an actual bet. When they go to the houses, and the number was 9.5. Originally I said over, but now that I think about it,
gotta be under.
Given the circumstances, you got to go under.
You'll get destroyed.
Yeah, I think the league will probably tell these guys, make sure you do not have people.
Get those people out of the
your
room.
House. That's where, just going back, and I just want to say real quick, over at Awesemo, we're going to have content breaking it down. After this show, I'm going to get writing an article on my favorite bets for the NFL draft. I put some in, I'm eyeing some more, so that'll be available for everyone to check out. But going back to the connection issue, I think we'll see a lot more technical issues on little things like that than the draft itself, where trying to interview a guy and the connection drops and they just move on.
Dude, I still think there's going to be I still think there's going to be
no way.
Yeah. I still think there's going to be somebody that just says, "Nah."
You don't think the league?
They won't put him on the screen.
Yeah, the league would take over, I think.
Dante said, if you watch the WNBA draft, a lot of those girls had 10 plus in the rooms.
Well,
I'm going to go out. I didn't catch that one.
It'll be a thing if someone has like a huge draft party.
Yeah, probably will.
And then
you're right. The NFL is not going to want to have that blemish on their broadcast for the draft.
I mean, they're rare in that they rarely have blemishes.
Yeah. What, the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're never making
blemish
controversy. Free. It'll be interesting. I mean, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to bet on it. I do think there's some value out there, but time will tell.
Speaking of value, the NFL, the Vegas win totals have been released. And let me tell you, there are some ridiculously appealing numbers here. Number one, the top win totals are the Ravens and the Chiefs at 12 wins. At the bottom, the Redskins, the Jaguars, the Bengals, the Panthers, and the Giants. Notice the Dolphins actually aren't in there at the bottom 4. But I'll tell you what right now, Josh, if there was a bet that I could make right now on the NFL, well, it's going to be some of those player props futures that we'll get into in a moment. But I would hammer Ravens under 12 wins, and I would feel phenomenal doing so. There's no way I'm betting Ravens to win 13 games this season. That is the easiest under pick. I know maybe you're a Ravens fan and you're watching this. I'm not insulting your team. But to bet the over on 12 wins after seeing them do it for 1 year, there's just no way I'm going there. Not even a remote chance.
I like it.
Because I said I didn't like it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they still got
totally
RG. They still got RG3, right?
Ben?
If I had to bet it,
Yeah.
I would bet the under. But this is certainly not the one that stands out the most to me.
If it is to me. And I'll get
what's
to
the juice on the line, though? Like,
Yeah,
I assume you're getting something pretty tasty for the over.
No.
No?
I don't see why you would.
I mean, knowing that it has to go to 13, if this had a hook on it, it might be a little different. But
so it is.
Yeah, you push a lot here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're good. I think they win 10 games this year though, so I am clearly well under this, and I'll tell you why right now. So okay, it's at DraftKings has it at 11. So some sites have it at 12. DraftKings has it at 11. That's entirely different. But they have the over at minus 115. If you look at the if you look at the Ravens schedule, dude, under all day. So I think the Browns are going to be a lot better this season. I'm not saying they're going to be great, but I believe they will be a lot better. They've got them twice. You've got the Steelers twice. Still a very good football team, particularly on the defensive end. You have the Titans, you have the Cowboys, you have the Chiefs, then you have the Texans in Texas, the Colts in Indy, the Patriots in Gillette Stadium, the Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. Like, there are not a lot of layup wins for this team. To run through all of them and win 13 of those games, it just seems so highly unlikely to me that the under feels great.
Well, yeah, it's a 50-50 shot at 11. Under 12 is what? How big is the cost of buying a win?
I don't know. It's
under 12 has to be what? Minus 160?
I don't know. I grabbed, they have them on DraftKings Sportsbook, but I grabbed them from Bleacher Report because Bleacher Report puts them in order, and it's easier for us to go from top to bottom.
Sure.
Instead of searching for the teams that we're looking for, because they put them in alphabetical order, which doesn't do us much good when you're trying to find the quick numbers. But whatever it is, I would take the under on that, and I'd feel great. Like, I just think it's so unlikely that this team ends up getting 13 wins this year. 13 wins in the NFL is an incredible amount of wins, especially to do something like that in back-to-back seasons. 13 wins is so hard to do with the amount of parity that is in the NFL.
So, I have other sites that I use. I think one of the most important things, and we're going to talk a lot about this, when sports get back, shop your numbers. I see chat, the same people talking about the same bet. One person has 9, one has 8. That's huge.
Someone has 8.5 on the Ravens?
No. Just an example.
I was going to say, that is absurd.
I'm looking right now on my screen. I have Ravens under 11.5 minus 160.
Under minus 11.5. Yeah, I would hammer the hell out of that.
See, it's very close for me. I probably would not bet that.
Minus 160 on under?
Yep.
Yeah, that's, if it was minus 12, if it was, minus 160 on 12,
well,
to me, that's, what's that?
You're going to get obviously better odds there.
Yeah, then you can push. But, okay, Ben, and you're right, you have to shop around.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your eyes out for stuff like that in the very near future. What is the one that stands out to you as a layup here?
Oh, it's easy. They're related, and they're at the same number on a lot of shops. I like Tampa Bay under, and I like the Bills over. The time is now for Josh Allen. There is no excuse. I'm the biggest Josh Allen fan there is. He's got Diggs. He's got John Brown. The Patriots are at least in flux. I'm not saying they're not going to be decent, but you have everything that you could ask for. They were good last year. Very difficult at home. They get the Jets twice and the Dolphins twice. And even if you could split with the Patriots, that's a potential for 5-1 in the division. It's very attainable.
You have the Bills over 9.
Yes.
Wow.
I like the Bills to win the AFC East this year. I really do like that. And then on the other side, it's the same concept, just the other way. I don't think that Tampa got markedly better by any stretch. You got the Falcons twice, the Panthers twice, which that's helpful, of course, and then the Saints twice. Not the easiest out of division schedule either. They're sitting at 9. I think Tampa struggles again this year. I have no interest in backing them over. I actually like under 9 is plus 125. So you're going to find a plus number out there at worst. I'm definitely in on shorting Tampa.
DraftKings has them at 9.5.
Yeah. Now, obviously it's going to be juiced worse, but
at minus 110.
Yeah. See, like I love that bet.
Whew. I love that as well. And I actually am not as low on Tom Brady as you are in terms of affecting them negatively. 9.5 wins. So to win this, you've got to get a 10-6 season from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they're going to be better than Ben thinks they're going to be. I do. I think their defense will improve. Their run defense was spectacular last year. They have some holes to plug, but betting the Bucs under 10 wins, that's definitely a really nice number.
Do you know what the limits are in the DK Sportsbook?
It depends on who you are.
Yeah,
that's the real answer.
Generically speaking, do we know what the limits are?
Probably pretty. I would say pretty good. I'm in, unfortunately, a state that you cannot use DK Sportsbook, but it's pretty good, I would say.
Depends on what you're betting too.
Of course.
Well, these win totals, not like the.
I don't know what
a baseball game.
I don't know what win totals are for what the limit is. No, I don't. Why?
Yeah,
do you have one you like?
No. I'm just thinking about like how efficient I think that this DK market is. If the limits are $50, then I don't care what any of these lines really are.
No, they're not going to be. I mean, it's good. It's in the thousands.
You think?
I don't know. I have no idea. How many tonals are you betting on this, Josh?
1/3 tonal.
1/3 tonal. Okay.
Yeah. Titans over 8.5 is interesting to me.
That division is wacky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine I know it's not $50. What's the point of betting a future win total, putting $50 on it?
I bet they're lower than you think they are right now.
I would, if you had to make me guess, I would say generically it's probably 500.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Some books are willing to book. A lot of books don't want you to lock up your money for like 6 months like that. So they shade it now. Especially
right now. Like I would guess that limits are artificially lower for stuff like this because we don't have any, like they don't want to overexpose themselves to scenarios that we don't know are happening.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think they're $100,000 limit by any stretch, but I do think that if you wanted to get a little bit on that, like a decent amount, I think you could probably do so. I'm sure we could pull it up. I hadn't looked into that, but there's got to be a spot where they're showing limits.
I can't even verify my account, so
neither can I, but that's neither here nor there.
I have one. I just don't see it anywhere specifically.
It depends,
add the bet.
I did, and it didn't make a difference. Like I did. I did it for 1,000 to see what happened, and it lit up green. So
just to speak to the Bills, and yes, I understand they did what quote unquote they should do last year. They beat a lot of bad teams, and they had a soft schedule, but they were 10-6 last year. They lost both games to the Patriots, very competitive in both. They lost to the Browns, lost to the Ravens, the Eagles. No shame in really that, but this is a team at home. I feel pretty strongly they can be 6-2, 7-1. And when you do that, you don't need to be that efficient. You clip off a couple and you post 10-6, 11-5, and I think they can win the AFC East easily this year.
What about the Niners at 10.5?
Oh, God.
Normally you'd say, okay, easy, but I just want to point this out, and I want to get to the Jimmy Garoppolo passing touchdown futures prop in a minute. This is a really tough division. You've got the Seahawks twice, who every year exceed my expectations. The Rams I do not expect to be spectacular, but they'll at least make it a competitive game. You got them twice. And now you have the Cardinals, whose win total is only at 7 games, but they are getting the second year from Kyler Murray. They have DeAndre Hopkins. Cliff Kingsbury seems to be a competent enough coach. 10.5 is a tough one for me. I don't have a good read on either side of that.
It's tough for me because I really, really disliked the Niners last year. I didn't see that coming from them. I thought they overachieved severely. Sometimes one year, it's tough. This is just like DFS and other things where you don't want to overreact, but you also can't ignore it. You can't just say, it's variance, I was right. But at the same time, you can't just say, oh, the Niners, I was dead wrong. They're amazing. Like maybe it's a blip. Maybe we look back and say, wow, what a run that was, and they regress a little bit. I think that the Rams are the wild card. If the Rams are still competent, it's going to be tough for them to get to 11. If the Rams turn into the doormat of that division, that's probably the angle where they can really still dominate the Cardinals and the Rams. You know, you hold your own with Seattle, and that gets you off to a good start.
I think I looking at this now, I actually think that the Ravens were bet down from 12.
Maybe.
Well, it's clearly trending that way because I see 11.5.
Yeah. And I'm looking like Caesars opened at 12. Westgate opened at 12. So that's significant to like I said, I would have loved the under on that. Josh, any other win totals that stand out to you here? The Patriots this season have the lowest win total in forever. In some spots was 8.5. It's now up to 9.5 on DraftKings, but man, 8.5 for a Bill Belichick coach team would have been really low.
Jets under looks kind of interesting to me. I think they overachieved at 7-9 last year. They've got 6.5 hung even action on both sides. 6-10 doesn't seem super outlandish, and significantly worse than that is certainly on the table. Who's the Jets' backup quarterback?
What's that?
Who's the backup for the Jets?
I don't know. Last year they had two guys that performed worse than any backups you could ever imagine in your life with Sam Darnold out.
Well, they had Luke Falk. He broke everything. Then Trevor Siemian came in and he broke everything.
David Fales.
Oh, San Jose State. Great. David Fales. That's not good though. I can spoil alert. He's not that good.
Right.
No.
And then Mike White.
South Florida goat. I thought he was, no?
Western Kentucky. Oh, yes. So we went to South Florida, then transferred to Western Kentucky. There you go.
Okay. I remember that name. I mean, listen, any team, if you're going to, I don't know if you're asking this because of injury, but like if you're pulling their starting quarterback, we know what the result's going to be.
You know, wide receiver core of guys that I'm not enamored with. Crowder, Rashad Perryman is like nothing but hype that wasn't realized. They've got my former Redskins boy, Josh Doxson now. I don't know. Le'Veon Bell might just quit. Who the hell knows with that dude? Him and Antonio Brown must have been drinking the same stuff in Pittsburgh.
Fournette Le'Veon Bell has a rushing prop of like 860 this year, which is really low.
Yeah, that makes me like the Jets under even more if they're hanging a number that like that.
Yeah, I think some of those are really exploitable. But the one thing I also find interesting is, you know, you look at some of these teams. The Carolina Panthers have a win total of 5.5. They just gave Christian McCaffrey, you know, the most lucrative running back contract ever. Saquon Barkley, drafted second overall. He's going to get paid huge money. They have a win total 5.5, right? Tied for the fourth lowest in the league. How about Joe Mixon? Joe Mixon says, I want to get paid. I want big money. Cincinnati Bengals win total 5 even. Dude, Ben, I'm sorry, man, but you look at some of this stuff and you have to ask yourself, and look, I know people will make arguments for good wide receivers and other good players on good teams, but, you know, how much worse would their win totals be with a good but not great running back? Maybe half a game?
Yeah, I mean, it can't get – so, you know, generally with totals, even over unders to an extent, like they can't set them as low as they should or as high as they should. Like there's going to be a team that probably wins, you know, 2 or 3 games in the league. Now, identifying who that is and setting it down there is very difficult. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Of course, with these running backs and these big contracts, I don't think it's a cause and effect per se, but it's just one of the many, many hurdles a lot of these teams have to overcome. And it's why we see them where they are. I mean, the Redskins to me are, if there's a team that's going to make leaps that's way down there, I think they could be better than people think. They seem to have more in place than these other teams.
I agree.
I've got a question for both of you guys regarding this team that makes the leap.
Go ahead.
Dolphins, Bengals, Jags, Raiders, Redskins, Lions, Panthers, Cardinals. Those are the 8 teams that have the worst odds of winning their division. Who makes the playoffs out of that group?
Oh, I don't think they make their division's so difficult.
No. Out of all of those 8 teams, those I know, are the
but
teams
I had mentioned
yeah.
I had mentioned the Cardinals. Yeah.
Who's most likely to make the playoffs? I would assume you would expect one of those teams to make the playoffs out of the 12 playoff
Really?
spots. Just from a math perspective, I would guess that one of those 8 make one of the 12 spots.
This goes
back to our pre-show question, Ben.
Yeah, but I would say no on that, Josh.
I bet it's close.
So let's go through it. Washington Redskins, I cannot in good faith put them anywhere near a playoff run. Granted, it's not a good division, but I expect the Eagles to be markedly better than they were last year. And I think the Cowboys will still be competitive. So no. Jaguars, I don't think Gardner Minshew gets it done. Bengals, no chance. Unless Joe Burrow is like the best rookie quarterback ever.
There's no chance.
Okay.
The Bengals, listen, they're going to have their number one concern this year should be AJ Green being on the field.
Yeah,
that's what people I don't think realize is that their superstar is borderline broken every year. They need to get a full team in place and build for a change.
Just pay Joe Mixon and you'll be fine.
Wow.
Panthers 5.5. No.
Worst team in the league.
You think you got them as the worst team in the league?
Yeah. Yes.
They and the Bengals both have the worst divisional odds.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they should for sure because you've got the Saints with a 10.5 total. You got the Falcons who should at least be better than them. And now you've got the Bucs with Tom Brady. So that makes perfect sense. They don't stand a chance. Giants, I think, could be a little better this year. Still don't stand a chance. You know what? Maybe watch the Giants end up being the team that sneaks into the playoffs, but they need to win their division. So,
well, the Giants were not one of your choices.
Yeah, they weren't on there. I was going to say.
Redskins have the worst division odds. Who of the teams with the worst division odds has the best?
I was taking win totals. Giants are bottom 4 in win total.
To me, just to go to your question, Josh, it would be the Dolphins, even though I don't like them. It's just a product of the division. Sure. Chat just said this. I agree 100%. The Cardinals are the best of the bunch, but they're not going to make the playoffs because the product of the NFC and specifically the NFC West.
And the Lions as well probably aren't going to be terrible, but you'd have to get through the Vikings and you'd have to get through the Packers.
Is it the Raiders?
Probably not.
As a wild card?
They need to get in as a wild card, and that probably won't be easy. It's doable because I don't think the AFC South is going to be particularly competitive. I don't think you get a wild card out of the AFC South unless it's like Texans, Colts, and still that seems unlikely. It's hard to believe that you're going to get that out of the AFC East, but like Patriots, Bills, we've seen that on a number of occasions. Probably ends up being like Ravens, Steelers, right? In the AFC North. And then and maybe the Browns. I think the Browns will be markedly better this year. But I don't see a wild card team coming out of the AFC West. I will ask you guys though. The LA Chargers have will no longer have the services of Phillip Rivers. Right now, they're going in the battle, presumably with Tyrod Taylor. They have an 8.5 win total. This is one of the most, Ben, I know you agree with this. This team might be like the best underachiever over the past decade in terms of overall talent on the field and inability to produce and just the overall capability to lose every single game by one score.
Yeah. Obviously, it's been a running joke since like Nate Kading was their kicker that they just always are down 3 and they have no timeouts and they march down, they miss a field goal. They've clearly underachieved. I think Rivers was completely done, so I don't see a drop off there. But I do want to jump back. This is something we have to throw in. And I knew this, but I thought it was the next year. So the new playoff format
An
starts
additional team
this year where we get the additional team. I thought that was for 2021.
So 2021 is the first year they're allowed to, if they all agree on it. 2021 is the first year that they'd be allowed to play the extra game.
Okay, so that obviously is going to change things. With the playoff odds, I'm interested. I'm going to dig in to what I wonder how the books are shading. Will they make the playoffs? Those are bets that you can do for each team. Obviously, now they're going to have to factor in that an additional wild card team is going to get in each and every year.
All right, to make the playoffs, and yeah, good call on that. I knew that next year was where they can make a decision to play the additional game. I had also forgotten though that this would be so instead of 12, you get 14 teams.
That's so dumb, but that's neither here nor there.
Hate it.
I don't hate it that much. I think before baseball had a wild card, it was dumb to only have 4 teams get in or whatever, 5 teams get in, whatever it was.
I also hate the playoffs in every sport. So,
oh, that's weird.
NBA is the one that I hate the least.
It's because you're a soccer guy.
Yes.
Okay, so just to make the playoffs, Carolina Panthers plus 360. That seems absurd.
Plus 360.
Plus 360 on the yes.
So what's no? Like minus 500?
Minus 500 exactly.
You should. There's a, I don't encourage
life savings bet
to bridge jump, but this is listen, you want to debate like getting interest at the bank, you can just put they're not making the playoffs. There are no scenarios in my mind.
Wow.
I actually can't think of any scenario where the Panthers win more than 8 games.
Really?
How would that happen?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen at all. I'm not a big Matt Rule guy. Don't forget they have a new coach.
They also lost James Bradbury, who's one of the best cover corners in the league.
Yeah, the Julio stopper.
That's literally what he did. Yeah.
It's bad. Like we're also, and listen, I'm not going to try to project injuries, but they've already hit the ceiling on Christian McCaffrey. The guy is always healthy. It's a reverse free roll for a guy like that. He's either going to do what he's been doing or he's going to miss some games. If he misses some games, then you can mega forget it. But when you're laying minus 500, that's never a great thing. But man, that's insane. They're not making the playoffs.
The Eagles are minus 225 to make the playoffs. The Cowboys are minus 182 to make the playoffs. So both of them favored in the same division to make the playoffs. That would not have been the case last year. That is kind of fascinating that this extra playoff spot is going to open things up a lot. But teams like the Lions, plus 340, Packers minus 182. Looking in the same conference, you've got the Rams plus 163. By the way, I love the no on that. I think this is going to be a pretty disappointing Rams team this year. Vikings plus 104, Saints minus 400.
I'm gonna give you the team, Laffy. Here's a team that I think most people would back for no to make the playoffs, and I'm gonna go yes. The Denver Broncos.
Really?
Ooh. Yes, I really like what they've done. I think they're one of the few teams last year. I noticed a change late in the year. They were extremely competitive. Closed the season winning, 4 of 5. And when you only have a handful of wins on the year, they were 7-9, but they were really bad early. This is a team that's building for the future. They're always strong at home. The Denver Broncos are going to be in the playoffs this year.
Wow. Okay. So you're taking them at plus 180, which actually is not even that. Plus 180 is better than worse than I thought if I want that bet.
I'm not thrilled. I would shop that. I'm hoping I can find better, plus 200 or more, but Denver is a team that is on the rise. I don't think people fully appreciate. They've got a lot of things in place. When you talk about Sutton, Drew Lock, good defense. Von Miller bounce back year. Very difficult home environment. Division is not that strong. I really like the spot for them the more I think about it.
So do you take the Bucks at plus 144 to not make the playoffs?
They're not. Stop. Get out with them.
Dude, I think you're going to be massively disappointed.
I think people don't understand how, I don't want to say, listen to what I say before I say it. How good Jameis is relative to what people think. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but Jameis is a competent quarterback. Yes, the turnovers are crippling, and that does lose you games. But I do not see why the Bucs are changing much of anything. It's just going to be a different dynamic in terms of, the variance that the team has.
Josh, if I was taking a team to not make the playoffs and I wanted to make a long shot bet, I'm going Niners at plus 238 to not make it. I expect not a terrible season by any stretch, but I expect this Niners team to take a considerable step back this year.
Wouldn't shock me. That's been a problem with teams like that year over year over year over year. Big step back for Jimmy G potentially. I would probably take the Eagles.
I'd take the Ravens.
I was just saying it to see if I could get a rise out of Laffy there.
No, the Eagles are a really solid bet to make the playoffs.
I think so.
Yeah.
I have some data for you guys too.
Shoot it.
So going back to the question I asked before, I grabbed all of the odds to make the playoffs for each team. Grabbed it for the 8 teams that I listed before. 18, based on the odds that are out there right now, 18% of the time, all 8 of those teams miss the playoffs, which means 82% of the time, 1 or more of those teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. There is a ton of parity in the NFL. Like more than any other sport, one year a team can be terrible, the next year they can be good. Look at the 49ers, for example. Yeah. Look at the Eagles the year before they won the Super Bowl, right? Like, and then they can be bad the next year. So that makes sense. The problem is figuring out which one of them it's going to be.
Yeah. Or more. I mean, it's like, the line is probably 1.5.
Well, with the extra team, that is a game changer.
Yes.
Because to win you have that data to make the playoffs. To win their division,
way different. Yeah,
way different. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, sorry. If I said that question before as which one of these worst teams do you expect to win the division? That was probably okay.
I was saying that these teams are so live to grab the now 7th spot in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I generally like to have things planned throughout the show. But sometimes news pops up that is somewhat shocking.
Better be good news.
Well, it's not like sports updates. We'll give you updates on the leagues every single day to start the show. If we don't, that means nothing has changed. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten any relevant professional sports league news since Thursday, April 16th. That's the last we got. So we will let you know. But esports are happening right now. And on Friday's show, we did the flash sale. We got a ton of signups on that because why would you not sign up for a weekly esports premium package for $1 to get the top stacks, to get the projections, the ownership projections, ownership rankings, all the premium articles, everything that you would need to win that or to win in esports is right there at Awesemo.com. And all you go to awesemo.com/join esports right now and get that in there. Look, Alex Baker has been having an excellent time winning at esports at League of Legends. We get people DMing us, tweeting us all the time that they're having, maybe not to the same scale of Alex Baker, but they're having a lot of success. So go to awesemo.com/join esports. We will do flash sales throughout the week. We're going to do a lot of that fun stuff. But as of now, the packages, if you didn't get in on it, I'd jump in on that right now. Awesemo.com/join esports. And Josh, we've also got something else going on a little giveaway action for NFL.
We do. It's a big one too. So one, you should head to the Awesemo_com Twitter account if you want to get a little bit more info on this. This is one of our most recent tweets. Let me double check and see if it's pinned right now or not. That can make it a little bit easier for everybody. Awesemo_com. Not pinned right now. Not important. We'll have a tweet up shortly. It'll get to drop that in chat. So we're doing a giveaway for the NFL draft. You have to correctly pick the first 3 picks in the draft. You reply to our tweet with those picks. You got to tag a friend. You and your friend both need to be following Awesemo_com and at Awesemo NFL, our NFL account. The only catch to this is the friend that you tag can't already be following us. So choose your friends wisely. If you end up being victorious in this giveaway, you and your friend can win a Awesemo Platinum yearly subscription. That's a $2,500 value. All you have to do is answer a tweet. Doesn't get much easier than that.
It's a beautiful thing. Platinum plus an NFL jersey of your choosing, you got it. 49ers Don says, Laffy, you've been smoking that gas with that comment. If I had to guess which comment he's referring to, look, I'm not sure. But if I had to guess, it's maybe the 49ers not making the playoffs comment, Ben.
Just a hunch.
Just a hunch.
Listen, we'll see. I do think that that's the quote unquote obvious team that everyone's going to look to as they're going to take a step back. It makes sense on a lot of levels, but we'll see. I'm not entirely sold. I certainly have no position on them this early, and I'm not sure I'll take one until we see a couple things unfold.
Yep, agreed. I'm just glad there's no bias.
Wow.
We still appreciate you watching the show, Don. Mike Crowther says, I won $3K last week on League of Legends, more than all other sports combined for me this year in DFS. That's awesome. And congratulations, dude. So here's the news. And I think we should probably, a couple things to move to tomorrow's show that you guys will definitely want to be here for. The player prop futures.
Yeah, we'll get into those tomorrow for sure.
I have some, and I know you guys do too. I have some that I put a lot of work into in terms of researching that I feel like if I were going to bet, I would be hammering some of these numbers right now, and I would just set it and forget it and wait until the season is over and collect my money. That's where I'm at on these. We'll start tomorrow's show off with that. And also Michael Jordan, the mini series on ESPN, The Last Dance. If you guys haven't watched it yet, there's the first 2 episodes out. We can hit on that as well. Definitely check that out today if you haven't done so yet, so you can join in on the conversation tomorrow. If you are a sports fan like us, you will absolutely love this. It's fascinating through and through. So here's the news. A draft tidbit. This is from Ian Rappaport. A draft tidbit to file away for Thursday. The Giants have spent a ton of time researching Oregon quarterback Justin Herbert, a process that's included FaceTime conversations with Coach Joe Judge, per me and Mike Garafolo. I always get his name wrong, like Garapolo. New York Giants have been exhaustive in their draft prep at number 4. So normally you just brush this off as nothing, but I've got to ask. I have to ask you guys this. Sometimes when new coaches come in, they want their guys. Ben shakes his head, but we saw it with Chip Kelly. We've seen it with a lot of players. Well, they'll just ship off LaShawn McCoy. Here, go ahead. We'll take Kiko Alonso. We'll cut Deshaun Jackson because he's a gang member, which he wasn't, or even affiliated. Nonsense. Glad to have you back, D-Jax. Is this just craziness that they're sticking Daniel Jones no matter what, or does Joe Judge want his guy?
Maybe it's a little bit of both.
What do you think the chances are that there's maybe I'm off base, but this reminds me of when, and this is even more extreme, of when the Redskins were saying that they were doing their due diligence on the quarterbacks instead of taking Chase Young at 2. And, Ron Rivera came in and people talked about that. And then ultimately what happened, what's going to happen? The logic will take over. Daniel Jones showed it's going much better than expected.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the question: should they be doing this?
Yes.
Like,
Wait.
if they determine,
sorry. Go ahead.
if they determine that they think quarterback X is a better answer for them long term, should they be doing that right now?
I think so, yes, but most people would disagree with that. What about here, let me give you guys an example. This has happened in recent history. What team just did this?
Yeah, not a smart team, the Arizona Cardinals.
So you think they should have kept Josh Rosen and not drafted Kyler Murray? Josh Rosen, a guy who can't even get on a field right now.
Yes, absolutely.
I disagree.
Well, listen, I'll say this. The only reason that you could justify it is if you think you massively blew it with the first guy. I don't know. That's fine. How could you say that about Daniel Jones, though?
Right. I'm with you. But I think it's probably possible that you could maybe, quite possibly, potentially, in some world, make that argument for Dwayne Haskins.
No, I don't see that either.
Dude,
$1,000,000% yes.
Oh my God. You guys are both.
He will never, I'll bet anything I own that he will never be an NFL caliber quarterback. I'm sorry, Redskins fans. Dude stinks.
I mean, you just lost that bet immediately.
Why?
Because
we'd have to send. Well, no, okay. I didn't say an NFL quarterback.
I know what you're saying, but I think it is just amazing how, we talk about a lot of the things that are evolving in the NFL. These guys wouldn't even been on the field 20 years ago. Now, in like 6 games or 8 games, it's like, oh, yeah, no, we got to start over again the next year. Like, give me a break. I think that's absolutely insane.
Spencer said it's been half a year.
Seriously.
I'm assuming he's talking about Dwayne Haskins.
Or any of these guys.
It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to Haskin. Okay, does he get more than does he ever play for more than a 7-win team as a starter throughout the course of 16 games?
No, but I would also bet the no on most quarterbacks.
Really?
Yeah.
On most?
Most.
I just can't believe that people, like, you draft Haskins, obviously a top pick. You see a little body of work. If I went back in the draft and redrafted these guys, it wouldn't, he would not move much for me, having seen what we've seen.
So let's just say there's a draft and you feel like you are locked in there. There is a quarterback that you feel like is a can't miss.
That would make you an idiot if you really think that. But yes, go ahead.
Do you think that always?
None. I don't think so. No,
Andrew Luck's coming out.
Andrew Luck, let's be fair, he was a can't miss.
Andrew Luck. No, he just didn't miss.
No, okay. Well, I'm saying if you're talking about he wasn't can't miss and he didn't miss, all I'm saying is I wasn't sure if Josh was using him as a guy that ended up not being good.
No. Andrew Luck is like the epitome of can't miss in recent era.
Correct. Yeah.
He's the highest profile quarterback to come out in however many years.
Since Peyton, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they almost go ahead, but yeah. So,
in a sense, it's like, no, he didn't miss. I get what you're saying, Ben. Like, it's different, but I do think there are certain spots where, like, if you're talking about quarterbacks drafted in the top 1 or 2, normally, well, see, it's hard to even say that because then you get the Browns or the Bears that draft Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I have no idea what the question is right now.
I'm saying that if you're drafting quarterbacks in the top 1 or 2, generally speaking, they hit. At least they have recently.
No, I don't agree with any of this.
Yeah, I don't agree with you at all.
Listen,
wildly
the guys that hit,
disagree.
But like Ryan Leaf was can't miss until
I said recently they've had a decent enough track record in terms of not saying they're Hall of Famers, but like Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl. Carson Wentz has been a good quarterback. Andrew Luck. Say the 1 or 2s have over the past, I don't know.
Marcus Russell. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I am
Baker
just saying,
Mayfield knocked it out of the park at 1.
Oh, hold on a second, dude. Baker Mayfield threw 27 touchdowns in his first season. He took a step back last year, but to say that the jury's not still out on Baker Mayfield is insane.
Yeah, well, we're lucky you're not the GM because you would be. Well, times are tough, Baker. Good
no,
career.
because you're one.
And I'm the biggest. Justin Herbert's going to be outstanding. There's no doubt. But you can't just abandon guys that have gotten 6 or 8 games on a bad, like when
take over for a second, man.
When Joe Burrow goes to Cincinnati and they go 4-12 and he looks bad, that means to me actually nothing about how he's going to play. Like, when you're Cincinnati and then, so here's a question for you, Josh. And I think you know where I stand already. The Bengals take Joe Burrow. He has a horrible rookie season. Obviously, they struggle. They go 3-13. They get the number 1 pick. Trevor Lawrence wins the Heisman, as he's probably favored to do. He's the can't miss. Do you really consider taking him at 1 next year?
Yes.
Hold on. See what I have to do?
No. Hold on. So here's my caveat. You find out how much you can get for Joe Burrow,
which is probably not a lot. It's a fraction of what you paid for him, obviously.
Yeah. It all depends on what you can get back for Burrow, which I think you probably also agree with.
I mean, yeah, but only in theory, because in the sense what you get back, you get like a third and like an autographed picture of the coach from his playing days. Like, you get literally nothing in the NFL.
That's fair. Man, Laffy's comment about these top 2 picks working out is just bonkers. Look, I'm staring at Mariota and Jameis Winston right now.
They work until they don't work. Like I said,
look, a lot of it comes down to your evaluations of both of those players. If you evaluate Trevor Lawrence like he's Andrew Luck, and you evaluated Joe Burrow as the number 1 quarterback in 2020, but as nondescript as that means, like, it becomes more feasible.
All right, we're asking this again. Sorry, chat, but Luffy, here we go. Joe Burrow, he's going to Cincinnati, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has what I think will be a really rocky year. They're terrible. He has a lot of INTs. He doesn't look good. Trevor Lawrence, Clemson quarterback, dominates, wins the Heisman. He's obviously going to be the number 1 pick next year, and Cincinnati has the number 1 pick. Do you consider taking him?
No.
See, that's what I would say. But
I have stipulations here, in terms of, and by the way, I heard what Josh said. Jameis Winston, hasn't been great, but he also had, like, I think you could put Jameis Winston on a team and he would actually be very successful. Marcus Mariota just stinks. So yeah, I'll retract part of that statement to say that teams can make some bad decisions. But nevertheless, no, Ben, I wouldn't do that. But I thought Josh Rosen was going to be pretty decent. Ended up being wrong. Dwayne Haskins, I just don't buy into Dwayne Haskins. So that's a personal thing. I don't like his style of play. And I think, like, okay, Dwayne Haskins in college, what was his biggest attribute?
That he threw what do you mean? That he threw a lot of touchdowns. He's a fantastic quarterback.
But he had a cannon, right?
Yeah, he's got a cannon. He can't move. He's not mobile, but
he has a cannon.
Yes.
And he has Terry McLaurin, so that should help. Darius Geis, hopefully in another year, maybe he can stay healthy. So yes, am I overreacting and saying like, oh, go out and draft Justin Herbert? Of course. But I guess the question is, let me ask you this. How many years do you give a quarterback as your franchise guy before giving up? Because somebody like Wentz, his first year, he definitely sputtered a little bit, but he showed a ton of promise, right? I don't think anyone would disagree that he showed a ton of promise. Jared Goff even showed promise. What does Dwayne Haskins need to do?
See, this is what I'm talking about. If Jeff Fisher was still in at the Rams, we would be talking about Jared Goff, down. He would be completely gone.
That's a good point.
No, he would just be the quarterback of an 8-8 team for the 12th straight year.
Everyone would say, oh, what a mistake. I'll say this. I don't think there's a timeline. What I would try to objectively do is if my team is ready to win, that's when the time starts. I don't care about these years. Maybe this is an incredibly bad hot take. Like, I don't think that Josh Rosen, I'm not saying he's good, but I don't think it's a guarantee that he's bad.
Okay. All right.
If your team is built and it's ready, like Trubisky, that's a problem. That's someone.
That's an issue. Oh, absolutely.
The team is ready to win, and he is holding them back. I don't know what Daniel Jones or Haskins or Burrow this year is supposed to do. This is not basketball, as you saw last night in The Last Dance, where a guy can just transform a franchise. This is football, where if you don't have the right pieces, I don't care who you are, you're going to look bad. And if you overreact, you end up abandoning guys that would have a real chance.
Yep. Yeah, the quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall since 2000. Michael Vick, I'd say that was a success.
Yeah.
David Carr, not so much. Carson Palmer, definitely a success. Eli Manning, a success, but
that is a definite success.
Eli Manning, though,
it's been the biggest success of every name you've named so far.
Hold on a second, dude. His teams have, yes. Eli Manning is not a Hall of Famer.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. Well, he'll make it in, but he shouldn't be.
When did I go to Laffy's house? This is a little outlandish take.
Dude, statistically, Eli Manning has really never been that good.
No doubt in my mind, that's true. I've seen it.
So you're saying he is or hasn't been good?
No, he hasn't been that good. No. But his last name is Manning, and he's won 2 of the more famous Super Bowls. And
hold on. Let me rephrase. He will be a Hall of Famer.
That's correct. That's all
I don't think he should be.
And that's fair.
That's all I'm saying. Of course he's going to make it in. He'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer at this point.
Yeah.
I just don't think he should.
Do you think you think he's worse than Rivers and Roethlisberger?
Definitely worse than Roethlisberger. Dude, Roethlisberger is head and shoulders better than Eli Manning statistically, in my opinion. Yes, very much so.
Okay.
Big Ben, man.
Okay, he's very good.
Big Ben was awesome.
I'm a fan.
Phillip Rivers, I can't really say that because Rivers never won the big game. So even if Eli won the big games Ben, do you disagree here?
I mean,
Rivers is really good. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks ever, but he never got it done ultimately.
No, but I don't know how underachieving I view that. Big Ben Hall of Famer. It's not even up for debate. He's far in. There's no
slam dunk Hall of Famer. Yeah.
Yeah. Slam. I mean, he's got everything. He's got accolades and he's a compiler. Like Rivers doesn't have any, he never did anything, but he's still really, really good. That's tougher for me than Eli, honestly.
Like Mind Power says, Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowl wins over Pats, easy Hall of Fame. That's how people are going to look at it. So I get it. But, Mario Manningham, David Tyree.
He's not working with a lot, huh? Plaxico shooting himself.
Plaxico.
Here are the top 3 comps on Pro Football Reference for Eli Manning of people that played 15 more years. Roethlisberger, Warren Moon, Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, good quarterbacks.
Yeah. Bob Greasy also on the list. John Elway on the list. Jim Kelly on the list. Dude's going to the Hall of Fame, and it's not because Manning is in his last name here.
Might have something to do with it. Alex Smith, 2005.
Success.
Jamarcus. Oh, yeah, I would say so for sure.
That's that is like the barometer of like break even number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree with you entirely on that one. Sure.
It's not a bust. It's not a success by any stretch. It's just it's pretty average for a number 1 pick. It's kind of weird.
Completely with you on that. There's another one too. Matthew Stafford in 2009. The results in terms of wins haven't been there, but overall, like statistically as a quarterback, Matthew Stafford's been a pretty good quarterback with serious longevity in the NFL. Yeah. Jamarcus Russell in 2007, though, this one for me is easy because no one really thought he should have been drafted there.
Who?
Jamarcus Russell.
I mean, it's hard for me I have such a tough time separating that. Like, if Jamarcus Russell was fantastic, I don't think people would ever say that.
That he shouldn't have been drafted there?
Yeah.
Completed 68% of his passes in his final year at LSU, 28 TDs, 8 interceptions.
He liked that syrup.
Well,
he just didn't care about football.
I know, but you didn't know that at the time. He's throwing the ball 60 yards on his knees.
Oh, no. Of course I didn't.
That's Kyle Bowler.
I'm agreeing with you in saying that we'll never really know.
Oh, for sure.
Whether or not like he would have been that guy, but just the complete lack of motivation was not great. Putting on like 108 pounds. Okay, here, let's finish this out. This is fun. Sam Bradford, 2010. Huge, in my opinion, this is one where people will argue because they'll say, hey, Bradford was one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever, which is true, right? But every pass was 3 yards downfield. I think number 1 overall, given what was expected for Bradford coming out of college, that he definitely was a disappointment as the number 1 overall pick.
103 touchdowns, 61 picks.
He got paid, though.
He got paid.
Danger money.
I mean, so much comes down to his knees.
What's that?
So much comes down to his knees. Like,
oh, yeah.
He was never out there being dreadful.
Yeah, no. He was never the type of guy that was like such a liability, but he's also the reason the Eagles got Carson Wentz. You know, Howie Roseman made that trade and ended up landing Wentz, which was huge. But I'd say overall, is Bradford the worst first overall quarterback pick in the world? No, but he's definitely, if we're using Alex Smith as a barometer, you can't tell me that he's on par or above Alex Smith. That's what I would say.
Oh no, you take Alex Smith long before you take Sam Bradford in this.
Right. And Matthew Stafford for sure.
Ooh,
I
easily take Stafford over Bradford. Yeah.
I mean, if you're asking me if I get Stafford's career or Bradford's career, you have to take Stafford's because of playing time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not talking about like potential if the knees didn't burn out. I'm talking about what we've gotten from them.
83 games for Stafford, 83 games for Bradford, 149 for Stafford. Combined Pro Bowls between the two, 1.
And that was Stafford.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That one's tricky.
Cam Newton, 2011.
Success, clearly. Big
time success. He might have fizzled out towards the end, but big success. The running didn't help him there. Like that definitely hurts him. Andrew Luck, huge success. Unfortunately.
You're just doing number 1 picks. I sorted by first and second, and I was like, I'm excited to talk about RG3 here. And you went straight to Luck. And I was like, what's he doing? And then I was like, yeah, obviously you don't even have the link that I'm looking at.
No. I was looking at first over. Dude, RG3 is not fair to use as an example.
He was so good in the first year.
As an example of like somebody that they completely whiffed on that was a can't miss and didn't hit, because he took him to the playoffs in his rookie season, blew out his knee, was literally never the same since.
Kept playing in that game.
I know.
He got walloped.
How much do you blame the coaching and the organization for letting him play? Like you'll never hear the end of that. As Redskins fans, and I know a lot of them, like they look at a lot of that as the turning point of their franchise in many instances, because they allowed him to get back in that game. And many will say he was never the same since.
The only reason that I hate that he went back into the game is because of the way that they acquired him. If you draft him with the, let's say you draft him with the second pick, but you had the second pick, I don't mind throwing him back out there. But they traded everything they had in the future for him, which means that you are invested in RG3 even more so in the future than you would normally if you're taking somebody with an individual pick. I never would put him back out there in that scenario. I just actually saw a tweet since it's draft time from like 2 or 3 days ago from Brian Burke, who is the ESPN Advanced Stats guy now, but he had a site called Advanced NFL Stats for a while. He said that, so normally there's, you apply some sort of discount rate to picks in the future to compare them to current day. So like a 2022 first round draft pick, not worth the same as it is now because you have it now. To plot out the Redskins trade with the Rams, they implied the discount rate implied in that was that there would never be another NFL season. You could not put a positive number on that discount rate to make that value equation work out, no matter what number you set it to. It was implying that the NFL would end.
It's tough. Honestly, someone like Stafford for me is where it gets tricky because, like, when you're on the Lions the whole time, I don't know if we saw how good he could have been in a different situation. But we'll see. It's football is one of those games, though. Yes, talent, of course, matters. But boy, if you're just in the wrong situation for a lot of those years, it can end pretty quickly. And I don't think guys get a fair shake in that regard.
You know, I think sometimes the fans of teams can tell you a lot that we don't know. And you'd say, what do you mean, Lavi? They're either jaded or they're biased. Yes, but fans of teams are more than willing to say, hey, particularly at quarterback, it's time for this guy to go. And I do feel like most, yeah, and you're probably smiling because the Eagles fans, right?
Yeah. I mean, you've never stopped doing it. McNabb was like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen from a fan.
Well, I just was not a McNabb fan. I did not think, like, sure, well, yes, I get it. We're winning Super Bowls and stuff, but he declined pretty quick when he said he was no longer willing to run the football. So anyway, look, that's besides the point. Looking at some of these teams and fans, it doesn't feel like you hear a whole lot of Matthew Stafford has to go, right? From Lions fans. It feels like, especially recently, if you've been paying any attention to this, there's no doubt that they've been blaming Matt Patricia for a lot of the moves that have been made, right? Like in a big way. You don't hear that much hate towards Stafford. Look at so many other teams. They say, you got to get rid of so-and-so at quarterback. You've got to get rid of him. You just simply don't really see that with Stafford. And I'm not sure we ever have.
I don't know how, obviously throw out all the insane people because their opinion doesn't matter. But I don't know how you could look at the Lions at any point and be like, they would be doing better if they had a different quarterback.
I agree, but people are irrational. I'm saying a lot of times they are when it comes to quarterbacks, but they seem to be pretty rational with Matthew Stafford.
I think it's just because it's glaringly obvious with that franchise in particular.
Yeah.
It's hard because the NFL doesn't operate like the NBA, where you could let Matt Stafford go and, like, I'm going to compare sports, but like, and then the Nets can sign Kevin Durant. Like,
yeah,
Matt Stafford is, probably at the bottom of the list of like, these guys are good NFL quarterbacks. Like he crosses the threshold of being valuable, but there's basically no mechanism to replace him without fully mortgaging your team. Like you are admitting that you can't go any further because you either have to trade up in the draft to find the guy that you think is the lock to replace Stafford, or you're trying to draft this guy at like 4 or 5 as the second or third quarterback.
Right.
He becomes really difficult to replace because of his specific stature.
How hard is it to find and he's not even like a playoff quarterback, right? I don't know if he's ever been to the playoffs, but think of how hard it would still be to find another Matt Stafford. That's crazy.
That's the whole.
It's really easy. I don't even want to say easy, but like your most likely scenario is finding another Matt Stafford.
That's a ceiling to me.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's tough.
That's the way that I wanted to say that. Yeah. Your most likely scenario is failing without question.
Miserably. Maybe and I don't want to say this is specifically to Stafford. There are just not many QBs that if I switched them with Stafford, I think would impact the Lions.
Oh, absolutely. They might impact them worse.
Oh, well, in a positive way. So what more could you ask for? If there's no one sans a few guys that you're replacing to make the team better, how could you say anything other than this is one of the few cornerstones of the franchise?
Yeah. Dude, last year he was on pace for 5,000 passing yards and 38 touchdowns. He played 8 games. That's insane. The year before that, not great. 3,800, 4,500 yards, 43, 47, 5,000, 41. God, he threw 41 touchdowns in 2011. 29, 32, 29. Like, Matthew Stafford has had some really good statistical seasons. Really good.
Who's had a better career, Eli Manning or Matt Stafford?
Okay, hold on, Ben. Before you answer, I haven't thought about this yet. We'll end the show with this, and then we'll be back tomorrow. We got players props. You want to be around for that. Talking a little bit of the Last Dance, more on the draft, some insight, some analysis, and a lot more. Hopefully some updates on the sports leagues around the world. Before we answer this question, let's take playoffs out of the scenario and look at them as just quarterbacks. Go ahead.
What was the question, Josh? I just want to hear how you worded it.
I don't even know how I worded it.
Okay, I'll say this.
He said, would you take the career of Matthew Stafford or Eli Manning?
So I would take the career of Eli Manning, but I think Matthew Stafford would have had more success or would have been very live to have more. I think Stafford is not clearly, but is the better quarterback of the two.
When I say take the career, I don't mean that you get like Eli's team accolades.
No, you mean statistically and what? No, that's what I mean. That's why I said remove
like the Super Bowls
Super Bowl.
are irrelevant in this question.
Remove them in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stafford is the better QB.
Okay, how about this? If you were to switch from the beginning of their careers, well, from the beginning of Matthew Stafford's career and put him on the Giants, or I'm sorry, take Eli Manning's career, right? So we know what they did, what those accolades were. And you put Eli Manning on the Lions. What happens?
I think it looks really similar to what Matt Stafford did.
Me too.
I think it'd be worse for the Lions. Actually, I think it'd be worse for both because I think Eli really hit like a 2% ceiling to win 2 Super Bowls.
It is true. But I mean, remember, they got in there as a 9-7 wild card.
It's really weird that if you put basically any other quarterback in Eli Manning's spot, you're probably expecting less Super Bowls 100%. Than they actually won. Like, even if you want to swap him with Ben Roethlisberger, if we think that he is the no-doubter in that draft class, they're still probably like less likely to win 2 Super Bowls.
With Big Ben in there?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Because like just to win 2 is crazy hard.
If we're taking it for real, do you know the chances of anybody beating that Patriots team? Like
right.
As minimal as it gets, regardless of who your quarterback was.
Yeah.
So
and let me at least give Eli Manning some credit. They did win those games. Like those were games that they did win. And when he needed to, he made the throws. So he gets credit for that. But just in terms of like Eli Manning statistically for his career, he was, okay. What's the most yards he's ever thrown in a season? Like 2,000?
49-33.
Did he have he basically had a
hell of a shot there though, bud?
Is more than it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So he had 49. Okay.
I'm an Eli guy. I just think the reality is that you can look at someone and say, wow, he got the most of a situation. And then you look at Stafford or some other guys and you say, honestly, in some ways, they actually got a lot of from their situation. It just wasn't set up to win.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm just looking at it now. If you were to remove last season and you were to remove his rookie season, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years. He averages less than 4,000 passing yards per season. But I'll be fair, that's not everything. It's really not. I just think, look, Eli was a quality quarterback, but I don't think I'll leave it at this. I would never consider Eli Manning to be a great quarterback. Like I consider Peyton Manning to be a great quarterback. I don't see it in Eli. That's all.
The thing that I hate most is that we even reference Super Bowls.
I mean, it's just tough. Look at Flacco. That was as good of quarterback play as I've ever seen for that stretch when they won.
Yeah.
He was literally perfect.
Look at Nick Foles.
Yeah, it happens. And listen, you don't run through the NFL playoffs and be bad, especially when you're doing a big part of it. But at the same time, it's a very nuanced conversation, and it relates to The Last Dance, which we're going to talk to tomorrow. I think it's actually very interesting how much parallel there is.
Top 3 comps for for Matt Stafford's career, based on Pro Football Reference. Romo, Mark Brunell, Steve McNair.
I mean,
Romo's another one.
It's not that bad.
No. Brunell
Romo's another one.
Yes. Romo is a damn good quarterback.
Yes. Romo was another one. And by the way, this is how you know I'm not biased. I hate the Cowboys.
So do I.
But Tony Romo, had it not been for the injuries, like he had some really good. Romo made some really big plays, some really big throws, and had some really solid seasons. So I take nothing away from Tony Romo whatsoever.
Hall of Famer?
No.
Is Matt
Too many
Stafford a Hall of
injuries.
Famer?
What?
What's that?
Will Stafford be a Hall of Famer?
I can't imagine he would get in the Hall of Fame. No. I cannot imagine.
Nah. Unless he has stats, in terms of like career passing yards that are like way up there. Like Matt Ryan is way up there. And
Big Shizit says Romo ? With the laughing face. What? I think people
the draft, which I don't see at all.
I think people just look at these way differently than we do in terms of no, Romo's not a Hall of Famer, but Tony Romo, had he not been injured, he would have been a starting quarterback on a team for over a decade.
78 and 49 as a starter. Eli 117 and 117.
Wait, Tony Romo was 78 and 49?
Yeah.
That is very good in the NFL.
Yeah.
That is very, very good.
He led 24 comebacks and 29 game-winning drives. I don't know what the definition of that is, but that seems like a staggering high number for 78 wins.
No question. And listen, he started for a professional football team for a decade.
Yeah.
How do you not give a in this league where the turnover rate is so huge, to act like someone can start for any team for 10 years and not be considered a quality quarterback is blasphemous. Think about it. 10 years as a starter.
Really, really good.
For Jerry Jones, who that team, I don't care what anyone thinks about the Cowboys. I very much dislike them, but he wouldn't have just kept him around because he only does that with Jason Garrett, or did that with Jason Garrett. Yeah. Had it not been for the injuries, no, Tony Romo was pretty damn good.
His career looks so much different if he just simply doesn't botch that snap.
Yep. I was just thinking about that in my
Big
mind.
time.
And I still don't understand how he didn't score.
He was so close.
In the seasons that he started at least 13 games, this is insane. In the seasons that he started at least 13 games, he averaged, let's see. Oh, this is nuts. And then try and tell me that Tony Romo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He averaged 30.5 touchdown passes per season.
Yeah, my dude.
You average 30 touchdowns in a season over the course of 7 seasons where you you played 13 or more games. That's crazy.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Mind power. This is exactly how I feel. Romo, a couple bad breaks away from a totally different view career-wise. It doesn't mean those breaks didn't happen. It doesn't mean that partly they could have been his fault. But it is amazing how different these conversations are if they get it, and it's a huge if. It's a career-defining if. But, man, when you look at the players just at face value, take away the accolades, Tony Romo, Stafford, guys like that, I put them up there almost against anybody else. I'm not even, sans the really, really good guys.
Yep. And I did not like Tony Romo. Beady little eyes.
Not a Tony Romo guy. Now he's an incredibly good golfer and an announcer, but yeah, I think it's a very fine line. And yes, part of these were his fault. There's no doubt. And that goes into it. No doubt about it.
You look at Romo too, and I'm just picturing when we had to face the Cowboys twice a year in big games, there were times where we smoked them and times when they smoked us, but there was never a time where you weren't worried that Tony Romo could beat you.
Right.
And it's that simple. I'm not particularly concerned that Dwayne Haskins is going to be. I had to take a final shot. Hey, hit that thumbs up before you guys head out. Appreciate everyone hanging with us through it. This was a long one today, but man, what a fun topic of conversation that is.
Yeah, Chad, we hope you appreciated it. We had a good time with it. Love you guys chiming in on these topics. We're going to have plenty more tomorrow on all this stuff. I brought up Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is a Hall of Famer, and he's also very, very good. But
who is a Hall of Famer?
Today. Matt Ryan, I think he's definitely a Hall of Famer.
Interesting. Maybe we can talk about it tomorrow.
Tomorrow we'll talk about it.
Carson Wentz, 27 touchdowns, the over-under. Oh, baby, that's going to be good. Baker Mayfield's at 23.5. Josh Allen at 21.5. I know Ben and I are hammering the over on that. I can't imagine you wouldn't.
I mean, is it for 8 games or for the full season? Like, come on now.
Kyler Murray, Jimmy Garoppolo, 27. We're getting Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, a whole lot more tomorrow on the Awesemo Morning Show. Pound that thumbs up, hit the subscribe and the notification bell so you always know when new content's dropping next. It's been fun. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Same time. A lot of action on the morning show every morning, Monday through Friday.